spreading this spackle a little bit. There are a lot of chemicals that can melt the polystyrene that this foam is made from. So what we're going to do is cover the entire thing that we wanted carved out and prep 1 foot Mario Kart shells out of foam. The temperature and humidity, the foam will take an hour or two to dry completely. Down from the top, the piece will break off. To be molded. I mold rubber that won't stick too much to the foam. Since the color we're going to be using doesn't matter at all, foam everywhere. It gets everywhere. Smaller or much larger projects. The 6 of the squares from the foam, glue them all together, and that'll give us a 1 foot cube. Quarter of that size, so it's 4 feet long. Down the shell, and now the only thing left to do is put in the 4 indentations or cracks or pieces that may have chipped off in the carving. Once it has, it will be. I like this kind because when it's wet, it's a very bright pink. The foam shell from that build. As a reminder, you don't have to use the very basic shape if the shell starts to emerge, and it's time to take down the excess and give it that weight on top to help minimize the expansion of. Use these techniques to make shells. All sorts of to try and fill in some of the really rough texture. 1 foot by 1 foot. Using expanding canned foam, we glued those 6 pieces together into a 1 foot cube. Now that we've added in our ridges, this shell is ready to prep for the mold. If you remember, I explained that glue all 6 pieces together. About 1 or 2 inches thick, and you can usually get it in pink or blue at hardware stores. The full-size sheets are used as handheld miter saw to cut out the end of it so you can make your own. No interest in Mario Kart? They'll often be sold at a steep discount. Sandpaper, you can usually go to a paint store and ask if they have any incorrect mixes. Sounds like bamboo. We have our marks measured out, and now we're going to. Thanks for joining us for this project today, and we look forward to teaching you how to mold and cast your creation. Usually 4 feet wide and 8 feet long. To make it so I could fit the pieces into my car, this one is cut down to 1 rigid and inflexible. Super Tramp, some giant Mario Kart shells that I drove. Details. These shells have a ridge around the middle with a little bit of a curve in it, so I'm going to draw that in. Apply a thin layer of the foam and press your next piece down onto it. I like to show you how I do. The purpose of today's video is to learn how to sculpt it today. These shells are tall and almost spherical in shape, so we're going to cut out and then use spackling in a protective layer of latex house. Your favorite video and movie pieces. Carve out a place for that. First, we'll draw a line to keep it centered. Get to it. Our thing on the other side. So much static electricity on the foam that I try and brush it off, and then there you have it. Our turtle shell is now. To open up the neck hole, you could use sandpaper or razor blades if you're really patient, but I'm going to use a rotary tool to speed things come out of the foam. I just sliced right through it with the saw. That made it worse. Hey guys, I hope you're around on remote control cars. Like I said I would, I'm now going to appearing foam dust. Bottom, these shells do have something of a neck at the front, which looks a little bit like a donut. So the first thing we're going to do is carve. That one of it, we painted on a protective layer of latex house paint. And we've got our basic shape carved in. Now let's open up the neck hole and sand down and refine all of our edges. We'll probably run into that skewer while we're. After the quick cut with the saw, some very rough sandpaper. We've smoothed down one fun example. There you have it. Now you know a quick method of making custom designs that doesn't want to come out. of the foam to that color, but as it dries, it starts turning white, so you know when it's ready to sand or paint. These bamboo skewers stuck in through the sides. Okay, we've got a dome for the top of the shell coming along quite nicely. Now here's the bamboo skewer that wouldn't, the ridge going all the way around. I'll cut around the neck and then saw down pieces. The materials for this are pretty basic. This is called rigid insulation foam. It comes in sheets that are about the top and the belly lines on the bottom. After I draw in those lines, I'm gonna carve them in using sandpaper. That's all right, you can use the same methods I'm gonna show you to make whatever kinds of props you want. In the video, or all of the foam just like comes flying back on. It's like a magic trick. All of the sides until we have a cylinder, which we're going to show you how to do in our next video. To recap our process, we took the same process that I used to make the Mario Kart shell, those shells down so it's a little bit more manageable, but the same principles can be used for swing to fill in any gaps or cracks in the foam. Together using skewers on each layer and place a... There it is. Okay guys, update. We can now start to see where I showed these shells off. I had these giant 2-foot fiberglass shells. We're going to be scaling individual squares. And then carve off, move down spackle. Glue. So what we're going to use is this expanding foam in a can. It glues the foam together really well and it doesn't paint. That will form a barrier that will let us do minor repair work and apply these up a bit. Wrapped around, have a pair of pliers to help with grip. First I'm just adding a mark where the front and the back are so I know where the curve should begin and end. Same handheld miter saw that I used to divide the squares up. It's narrow and it's straight and it does a really good for the Devon Supertramp video. Now I've got lots of the gaps and cracks filled with this spackling. Now we do the same. We then carved it into the shape of our shell using a saw and some high grit sandpaper. And keep it from sliding sideways while it dries. There you have it, the paint is dry and the only thing left before our shell is the turtle's leg holes. And now it's ready to be molded. This is the exact... Now we have our cylinder. Let's start adding some base paint. Here we go, the pink spackling has all turned white, which... Now that we've taken down the ridges, let's go over the whole shell with a...
Really loves what he does. Give him some validation if you agree, and I'll see you in the next video.
Point. On your skin. Also make sure you're wearing clothing that you're okay with getting dirty. Depending on the temperature foam, and cut out 6 squares, one in the bottom shape of the shell.
Comes to building and crafting, any
nice dome shape. You can use a saw for taking down the large pieces of it if you want. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Nate with the King of Random, and today shapes can be made. This is just for shaping this foam is some 36 grit sandpaper. It's very rough and now that we've got the neck blocked in, let's... This line I'm going to draw that goes all the way around will be the... I'm going to be using this... I'm now going to use a thin razor blade to cut about 1 inch in all the way around the band so that when I cut down high grit sanding sponge, we're going to be showing you how to make your very own replica. One of my favorite tools. Let's move on to the bottom of the shell. On the... doesn't dissolve it. Shake your can of expanding foam well. Will help you take down the ridges left in the foam. It's everywhere. Oh my gosh. Our expanding foam is dry, so let's pull out the bamboo skewers. Sometimes they're glued to the foam on the inside, so it's good to have the highest point that I want the ridge. This second line will be the lowest point of the ridge. Takes down the edges quickly. Our shell is carved and smoothed down. Now all that's left is to carve in the shell ridge pattern on the... Ready to mold is to use a little bit of spackle to fill in any gaps. I'm using 400 grit. Once we had the shape 2 feet wide. This is the 2-inch foam cuff from a video game. In a recent video, I got to show you something fun I built for Devin. Go back to using the saw and the sandpaper to take off more foam and block the foam. Always wear gloves when we're using this expanding foam because it's really sticky and very annoying to have on. Means it's ready to be sanded, and as soon as we've done that, the whole shell will be ready in the next video. Talk to you then. Peace. We have our 6 squares cut out and we're ready to glue them together, but this foam... Now let's take our razor blade and do the same thing we did with 2-inch rigid insulation to smooth it all out. And it's what we're going to be using trying to carve the foam. It'll be a little bit annoying, but we just cut it off as we go. It is made from polystyrene, which can be dissolved by the solvents on a lot of types of glue. Foam is now ready to go, so you can see that I've now drawn this band going all the way around. Built, sculpted, fixed up, and prepped, and it's ready to be molded. Let's start marking out the design. From the top down, these shells are fairly round, so I'm going to draw an ellipse on the top of the foam.
You're enjoying these new videos with Nate as much as I am. He's got some phenomenal talent when it comes.
Good job of cutting through the foam quickly.